Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. I've got a PS5 here that came in for a busted HDMI port. So you can see the HDMI port is kind of bulged there, it is clearly busted. The keen-eyed amongst you may also notice that this USB port is also pretty busted, and this USB port is also pretty busted. But wait, there's more. This USB port is also pretty busted, and it's full of dust and missing a side panel. So yeah, I said to the customer, quote, "Wow, this is a state." So yes, we're going to have a look at this. Now, I would love to say that this is going to be like some kind of complete restoration job. I did say to the customer, do you want me to sort out those USB ports? And they said, one of them works. I'm not sure how, but apparently one of them works. And they said, no, just the HDMI port. However, I'm going to do the USB ports anyway, and I'm not going to charge the customer for it. I'm not going to do a complete restoration on this. This is going to be just a practice job, basically. Now, obviously, it goes without saying you shouldn't practice on customer devices, but I think that applies when you're going in completely green. I have done USB replacement ports before. So, like, I know how to do this. I just haven't done it on a PS5. So, as I say, in this instance, I'm going to use the ability that I already have to do a test run on the device and just see how much I can do with it. So yeah, this isn't going to be perfect when we're done because I don't have a spare side panel for it. Maybe the customer has it. I've no idea. But I'm just going to do what I can, basically. I don't know. Is this tech gore? If it's tech gore and you guys enjoy tech gore, here's some tech gore. Let's roll the intro and I'll take more panels off of this. Oh god, it's horrendous. Alright, I'm taking this straight up. I'm just going to take this out the back and just blow the worst of it off. Just for posterity, this is smoker's dust. This is not regular dust bunnies. I'm not afraid of regular dust bunnies. I don't care. However, this is what happens when you smoke. This is what all of your stuff is filled with. This is what your lungs are filled with. So, yeah, stop smoking. It's gross. Yeah, I'm judging. Right, I've just knocked the worst out of that. There's going to be plenty more to find inside this thing. However, at least it's not coming off on my hands quite so much. Let's go back into montage mode and I will carry on disassembling this. This has been apart before because most of the screws are loose and there's screws missing and in the wrong place. So, yeah. I think it would actually be a bit of a marathon to restore this to mint condition kind of thing. Like I said, this is just going to be a best effort job. I'm only being paid to do the HDMI port here, but I want to just try and do what I can for the sake of just to test my ability, basically. It also bears mention that one of the reasons why I often don't do things that people are call me out on, they're just like, oh, why didn't you do X and stuff like that, is generally speaking, I don't do something if the customer isn't paying me to do it. Because, for example, if I change one of these USB ports and something goes horrifyingly wrong and I butcher the console beyond all possible repair, when I explain that to the customer, they're going to be like, why were you replacing the USB ports? I thought we agreed that we weren't going to do that. So, one has to be careful when doing that. As I say, I'm using my judgment here as someone who's been doing this job for well over 15 years professionally. So yeah, I think I've been in the game long enough to know when you can do stuff and when you probably shouldn't. But in my opinion, best practice is to do what you've been paid to do, no more, no less. But yeah, as I say, nothing is black and white. Everything is within reason. Yada yada yada. Normally I'd keep track of which screws go where, but I think half the screws in this console are in the wrong place, so whatever, I guess. Oh, great, those antenna connectors are butchered. I think they're salvageable, but... wow, that's just hanging out there. Okay. Not 100% certain where that antenna is actually supposed to be. I might have to look that up. Oh boy, okay. I wonder what work has previously been done to this console. It's obviously been taken apart before. I wonder if it's not the first time the HDMI port on it has been done. Either it's not the first time the port has been replaced and we'll get to see possibly a hack job on that, or someone just simply took it apart and then realized that replacing a HDMI port is actually kind of difficult if you don't know what you're doing, and bottled out and then did a hack job putting the console back together again. Right, how does that actually come out? I see 2 screws holding it in. There we go. That lifts up and then we can unscrew that. There we go, there's our front USB port. Okay. Put all this to one side, that'll all need another dust out. Let's finish getting the motherboard out. I don't think that HDMI port has been done before. I can't see any obvious signs of rework on this, so again, I don't know why it's been disassembled because I can't see anything that's actually been done with it. Yeah, big dry spot on the liquid metal. That's pretty standard. The usual pump out. We can resolve that. This thing will have been burning up. Okay, whatever. That's the disassembly. Let's get to work, folks. So I'm going to set up and get the... we're going to just pull out all the ports. So usual thing with this, we will flow some fresh solder onto the HDMI port and hot air that off of the board. Clear the holes up, which is how I normally do it. And then we're going to do the same thing with the 2 USB ports as well, which is the same thing, just a bit easier because the ports are a bit less heavy duty. There's still going to be a lot of thermal mass around there though because of the ground planes. Modern consoles are particularly egregious to work on because, I mean, consoles always have big, thick, heavyweight PCBs, but just the current gen ones, so the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles, definitely dial that up to 11. This is the point where you will discover what not having enough heat actually means. So yeah, it's like trying to solder to an anchor. Groovy, let's get set up. great. My desoldering gun just jammed up. The reason why I'm not hot airing the new port directly on is that I'm not very practiced at that method. I like to wick the holes clear, because if you wick the holes clear, you never have to use hot air on the new port. So you're guaranteed to not damage it. And it's not a method that a lot of people go for, but I like it because if you can avoid using hot air on the new port altogether, then you don't have to worry about melting it at all. You know, obviously, avoiding melting is... there's techniques to that, but if you don't use hot air, then there's zero chance of melting it, right? However, emptying the holes is also a ball ache, so it just depends on where your skill set lies, I guess. No, not in the slightest. We're gonna have to hot air these in, I think. Or I could wait until tomorrow and drill out my desoldering gun. No, you know what? Let's try and hot air it in. Let's try and be pro. So I'll actually put some fresh solder into those holes, and let's see how we do. Reason why I'm deliberately filling the holes back up again is that the fresh solder will add some thermal mass. And I find if you don't do that, it's actually more difficult because the pins will just bind up. Whereas with a little bit of thermal mass in there, it kind of greases it up, if that makes sense. So firstly, I'm going to bring things up to temperature. I'm going to make sure that solder is actually all melting. Okay, looks good. This was the part I was dreading. Oh, I think I got it. Whoop. Right, I had a little bit of trouble actually getting everything to push through there, but I think I got it. Let's have a look and just see what that looks like. Oh, that's good enough, yeah. That could be like half a degree wonky, but that's good enough, man. So I'm not super zoomed in for this. My camera's just not very set up for this specific view. That's in. Okay, well, I ended up hot airing all of those ports in, and it actually went okay. Yeah. You know what? Kicking and screaming, I went into the actual correct way of doing it. Make of that what you will. Let's tidy up the pins on these ports. It is 5 PM on a Friday afternoon, and I'm wishing I'd started doing this on another day. Excellent. A bit more solder on those legs and we're done. There we go. There's 2 new soldered ports and a HDMI port. Okay, let's get this front USB port done now. So interestingly, this one's actually a USB 2 port, which I didn't realize. I just assumed they'd all be USB 3 because like the Type-C port, that's USB 3. But for whatever reason, they decided that this one just needed to be USB 2. Maybe they just assumed you would just use it to charge controllers and stuff, but yeah, if you're plugging your hard drive into the front of your PS5, you should probably plug it into the back instead. Anyway, right, so I'm going to hot air this out as well. So I'm going to vice this up. Let's just take this cable off. And same drill again. I'm going to retouch all of these solder joints with some fresh leaded solder to get everything moving. And then I'll hot air this out and I'll hot air the new one in. That seems to be going very well for me so far. I think I'm resistant to hot airing new ports in because just at some point in the past I've probably had a terrible time doing that. So I was like, no, you need to clear the holes. But honestly, I think this is the day. This is the day where I'm just like, no, we don't need to clear the holes. You can just hot air the new port in. You've just got to make sure you've heated up the board enough first. So the melting point of those will be lower now, but also just because we've put solder on there and heated it with the iron, we've put some heat into these joints, so there is now residual heat there. Here it comes. Whoop. Okay, there's the old one out. And you know what? I'm just going to go full send here. Here's the new port. I'm going to grab that with the pliers. And while I've still got heat here, just try and shove that in. Oh, yeah, there we go. I've no idea if that's in straight. That's where the lack of practice is. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. That's just a blanking thing that comes out afterwards. Alright, let's touch up those joints with the iron. I'll put some flux on it just to make sure we get some nice, good, healthy joins. Shiny solder blobs is what we want. Awesome, now we're just ready to reassemble the console, so I'm going to start putting everything back together and just dust things off as I go. Right, there we go, folks. New HDMI, new USB 3 ports, and new USB 2 port on the front. And I've given that a clean. I've not sterilized it, but I've given it a good thorough brush down. Unfortunately, half the screws are missing, so despite my best efforts, like I've got a long screw going through there, I'm missing most of the screws for this thing, so it was pretty difficult to try and get. I put stuff in where I could, is the short answer there. So yeah, however, that's not going to do any harm. All things considered, I think this has come out reasonably well. I'll give it a wipe down just to get all the finger marks off the front there. That'll shine up, and then I'm probably going to say to the customer, you know, look, if you jump on Amazon or eBay and spend a couple of quid on a new pair of side panels for this, and you'll have a respectable looking console again. And as you can see, that is working fine. We've got a picture output, and when we look closely, you can see we're actually at full HD as well. So we know that HDMI port is working properly, and so is EDID. And I've just closed up that gap that was at the front in the previous shot as well. Good. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm happy with the result there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.